everybody, this is Queer Cinema Catchup's recap and reactions to Yellowjackets, Season 3, Episode 9, How the Story Ends. And all I have to say is this how the story ends? I don't know. I've been thinking about getting off the Yellowjackets train since Season 2. I felt like there were some inconsistent storytelling, some disappointing storytelling elements back then, such as the girls kind of deciding pretty out of left field to use the cards to decide who would die, who they would hunt. We knew it was going to lead there eventually, but I didn't feel like there was a lot of lead up, a lot of character moments. It was sort of like, it's time to do this, and they did a great ceremony. It was very serious, and I sort of was very taken out of that. And I also just didn't believe that the adults would participate in a hunt-like experience as adults, as they did at the conclusion of Season 2, even with Lottie there being kind of this cult leader prodding them back in that direction. That said, the highs of Season 2 were terrifying and emotionally moving enough to keep me seated in spite of the lows. So we have Shauna hallucinating this entire experience with her young child, her baby who was just born, only to wake up and realize it was all a terrible nightmare and her baby has passed away during childbirth. Absolutely gut-wrenching, a great episode of TV. We have the moment the girls turn to cannibalism and eat their former captain, Jackie, and it's kind of half fantasy of them in Roman attire, having this feast, and half, again, nightmare where Coach Ben is watching them from a distance and seeing the horror of what they're really doing. And then the entire concept of dark tide, that she would fall asleep and be someone totally different, truly gave me nightmares. I even slept ran out of my own room in terror. But that's what I want for my show about teenage cannibals. And I feel like this season I haven't been scared one time. I haven't really been emotionally moved. I've been either bored or my eyebrows have been super, super raised high up on my forehead because I just don't understand the storytelling that's going on. There was an exception with episodes 6 and 7. I really liked the arrival of the scientists, but I feel like they introduced them only to really take them away pretty quickly, with the exception of Hannah dashing that story potential, making me wonder why they didn't have her arrive, say, in episode 3 and spend time developing their relationships with the other girls, so that when Cody, who passes away this episode, did die, I would have felt something. I would have had an emotional reaction instead of oh, okay, cool, Joe McHale was on this shuttle for half a second, and now he's not. Anyway, just to quickly recap what's going on in the teenage storyline, we have Shauna going full villain. She's commandeered the guns and Nat. She's refusing to let anybody leave. For some reason, all of the girls aren't listening to her, as is Cody, as is Hannah, even though I think there's plenty of them to be able to stand up to her and say, no, Shauna, we're not listening to you. So that's kind of a storytelling quibble I have. And at the same time, she's doing things that kind of go beyond the pale. So, for example, Melissa, her sort of girlfriend, is speaking to Hannah, kind of getting close to her. Shauna doesn't like it. She decides to threaten to shoot her in front of everyone. Melissa doesn't think she's going to do it. Shauna pulls the trigger. It just barely misses Melissa. Melissa wants her pants in fear, and Shauna laughs. She laughs. And I wouldn't go so far as say that I'm a Shauna apologist, but I like when a character does bad things. I think Shauna's gone through a lot. I can see why she's been kind of a heel this season, and I'm sort of here for it. But now I just don't really understand, because this is a woman or a teenager, I should say, who's prevented the entire group from getting rescued. She is treating everyone terribly, including people who care about her. And nobody is standing up to her. They're all super afraid of her, which I'm not sure they really should be, given that they're strength in numbers. I don't know why any of the girls would be on her side. And in the future, I'm wondering, adult Shauna, I'm kind of like, why do these other adults not act like Shauna's the craziest, their least favorite person, someone they don't want to see because they're so angry at how she kept them back in the wilderness through another winter. Now, we don't know what happens during that winter, but I find it hard to believe that Shauna's been able to redeem herself in some significant way. I guess it's possible. But anyway, it just doesn't make sense to me that sort of Misty's still seen as the one who's the problem, when it really is Shauna, as Melissa says in this episode. But yeah, just to kind of to close the loop on the teen storyline, what ends up happening is Natalie tries to orchestrate an escape plan for some of the girls. She slips Hannah a knife. Hannah undoes their binding. They're kind of trapped in the animal pen. Shauna finds out Cody's rude and kind of dismissive toward her, and Hannah turns around and stabs Cody and then says to Shauna, I just want to be a part of this. Now, to me, that is an interesting story beat because Hannah's a scientist. She said earlier, this is an exciting way to learn about survival. So maybe there's something sociological going on there with Hannah. Maybe she just loves science and wants to stay and observe and be a part of this unusual experience. Unlikely. What's more likely going on is that she is afraid of Shauna. She sort of clocked her as a leader and is trying to gain points with her so that Hannah herself is safe for the time being. Again, that's not necessarily a bad story beat. I just find it annoying that we barely had any time with these other characters after they show up. There's no character development, no moments among these teens and new adults who arrived at camp. And they're even suggesting that Melissa and Hannah get close. They've said that last episode, but I don't know how, assuming that Hannah probably doesn't survive to the end of the season, I don't really think there's enough evidence to suggest that they were close. She only just showed up. So if she dies a couple weeks later, I don't know. It just seems a little unrealistic to me. All right, back to the adult storyline where they really lost me. So, all right, Van has a dream while she's in the hospital. Priya herself basically says you're going to go on a hero journey. You're going to listen to the wilderness. It's going to be like the Goonies. Van wakes up, and even though all season she's been very resistant to Ty telling her they need to listen to the wilderness and try to get it what it wants, this is enough for her to convince Van that she needs to go on one of these, crazy adventures that these adults go on. So Thaisa and Misty leave the hospital. They discover Melissa on the side of the road, a little convenient, even though Melissa is fleeing from Shauna presumably on that same road. They just have to cross paths at the same time, whatever, I'll accept it. They take Melissa back to Shauna. They have this crazy conversation about Adam from season 1 and how Shauna always thinks people are out to get her and that she kills them and she's the problem. None of that is false, but it just feels very inorganic. Meanwhile, they've kind of tied Melissa up. She's sitting near the chimney. She opens the flute. She opens the flute. And everyone begins to pass out. And Van is the one to rescue everybody, which leads to this strange experience where Ty kind of goes into this other plane of existence and wrestles with Dark Ty, which allows real Ty to come back so that she can reunite with Van. And this is supposed to be Van's hero moment, even though we don't understand the rules of Dark Ty, how she emerges, why she emerges, what can be done to stop her from emerging, all of that unexplored. So this hero's moment feels very flat to me because I don't know the rules, I don't feel the stakes, and it just doesn't feel very earned or interesting because it's just so underdeveloped and strange. Then Van rushes back inside to help Melissa, but she considers killing Melissa because she's got a knife. She thinks if I do this, maybe I'll save myself. Maybe that's what the wilderness wants. Maybe I can live again. Her and Melissa have this conversation about it, and then Van says, "No, I don't want to be that person. I'm not that person." Which apparently is very similar to what Natalie did at the end of last season. Is she decided not to kill, not to do what the wilderness wanted, and then she passed away. Interesting side note. What's not interesting is that Melissa then says, "I know you want to be that person, but I do," and stabs Van, and Van dies. So adult Lottie and adult Van are dead. I just don't know why I'm supposed to be invested in the adult storyline when it seems like death can come at any moment in a shocking twist. And I don't really know how I can care about the teens if it just seems like the ones that are going to survive are probably going to die. It just kind of feels like, why does it all matter? This is kind of, it's not even soap opera-y. I mean, it is that there's like so many twists and turns, but it just feels very plotting, straightforward, kind of the opposite of what I think they're going for, which is chaos, shock, excitement, high stakes, lovers torn apart at the last minute by death, but it doesn't feel that way at all in watching it. It just feels like what's going on here kind of a moment. I do have a conspiracy theory, which is how I'll end this recap. Tawny Cypress, who plays Ty, Laura Ambrose, who plays Van, and Simone Kessell, who plays Lottie, have all given interviews where they've expressed extreme discontent. Well, maybe not extreme, but they've expressed discontent about how their storylines ended up this season because of these deaths and how it impacts all three of these characters and their roles on the show. I think it's very unusual for 3 actors to go on the record and say, the show, this job that I had, did a bad job. I feel that the storytelling didn't make sense to me. The show that's given me an opportunity, that's given me a public platform, that's allowed me to do my craft, I'm going to say it did a bad job. I think that's an unusual situation for 3 actors to do that on the same show, which either means they're really angry about the writing and they don't care if it looks bad if they're talking to the press, or it's red herring. That maybe there's this other way we're going to see these characters again, and they're going to get more interviews in a little while, being like, oh man, it was so hard to keep the secret, but we're still on the show, and we love the show. And if that's the case, I think it might be that there is this third plane of reality in Yellowjackets. I'm really holding out hope that this theory is going to prove to be true. When Nan dies, she wakes up on a plane, just like Natalie did. She's with her younger self. She's watching a street of herself die. She's pissed. She's like, this all led to death. Why did you want me to do this? This is the hero's journey. What's the point? And Dan's like, yeah, just how her story ends, but this wasn't the reward. And it's very cryptic and very strange. It kind of felt a little cheesy, not because of the performance, but just because of the way it was written and how Dan's death felt so, frankly, annoying and unnecessary, and like it's taking the air out of the story and the potential of the story. But anyway, she says this, it seems kind of mysterious. It makes me think, is there kind of a twist here where there's either a third plane of reality, kind of like the flash forwards in Lost? There's been a lot of references to Lost this season. Or I still like the theory that my co-host came up with. I mentioned it on an earlier recap, where maybe these teens never escape, which is horrible. It's horrible. Maybe they've grown up in the wilderness and they're the age they are now and in the show as adults, and they've kind of imagined a real life reality for themselves because it's too traumatic to be out there in the wilderness for this long, and that's why the adult storyline doesn't make any sense and is kind of silly. And I think that's both hilarious and would be absolutely disturbing to kind of suddenly see our adults trapped in the wilderness living as our teens do. It would send shivers down my spine. Probably not what's happening. I'm probably delusional. Those actresses are probably just justifiably angry at the decisions the writers made this season. I'd love to hear what you think. Please leave your thoughts in the comments, and please subscribe. Please check out Cinema Catchup's other videos. We have hour-long movie reviews, other TV recaps, video essays, and more. Thanks so much.